The March Madness college basketball tournament recently concluded, and per the norm, the madness was real. But it's not just a sports story, it's also a hotel pricing story. It is to me at least, and if you're watching this, it probably is to you as well. So we dove in and compared host city hotel pricing on a year-over-year basis to get a clean look at the March Madness pricing premium for both hotels and short-term rentals. Let's start with the first and second rounds, which were played March 19th through 22nd, and St. Louis led with a 42% year-over-year hotel pricing increase, the biggest we saw across the host cities in the first round. Short-term rentals in St. Louis, however, experienced a more modest 16% increase in gross ADR. As a smaller market with more limited supply, it was the hotel revenue managers that had the real pricing leverage. Now, on the other end, Portland and Oklahoma City saw modest year-over-year hotel pricing gains of 4% and 6% respectively, but short-term rentals in those markets experienced more significant growth in gross ADR, with year-over-year increases of 22% and 18% for Portland and OKC. Now, if you look at the other markets here, we actually see, other than Philadelphia and St. Louis, short-term rental growth surpassed hotel price growth for all other markets. And I think that probably has something to do with the typical clientele for March Madness. A lot of big groups of fans, families, groups of friends from schools, alumni clusters, and these are the travelers who may prefer to book a whole house together as opposed to booking multiple hotel rooms. And I think this notion gave short-term rentals that pricing power. And just to note, Buffalo's data wasn't available to us for this cycle, so we'll revisit that market on a future update. Now, into the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, which were March 26th through 29th. Chicago stands out. Hotels up just 0.5%, but short-term rentals surged 32%. Chicago is a major convention city with a huge supply of hotel rooms, so tournament demand barely moved the needle for hotel pricing growth, but short-term rentals appear to have that pricing power that hotels weren't able to muster. Washington, D.C. was the only city where hotel prices actually fell, down about 8%, while short-term rentals still rose 12%. Though I do think the drop in hotel pricing is likely more the result of federal government cutbacks. Houston and San Jose were quieter, both up between 8 and 13% year over year for both hotel and short-term rental asset classes, with hotels and short-term rentals moving year over year closely in tandem. And then there's the Final Four and Championship weekend. Indianapolis hosted both events at Lucas Oil Stadium April 4th through 6th. Hotel prices climbed 48% from $136 to $202, but short-term rentals were the true star. With no group lock obligations or competitive set pressure, pricing had a much higher ceiling. Gross ADR more than doubled from $312 to $637, a 105% increase. Lastly, the lead time data tells a super interesting story, and it looks different depending on which night you're tracking. Look at the two lines on the chart. Final Four Saturday is in yellow, Championship Monday is in teal. For months, the championship line tracked higher, and that makes sense. Championships seem to be the marquee event. But after the Final Four teams locked in on March 29th, we start to see some divergence, okay? Final Four prices surged 44% in just 6 days, from $196 to $283 on game day. 4 fan bases descending on Indianapolis for a Saturday night doubleheader created massive last-minute demand. The championship line rose too, peaking at $239, but then it reversed, dropping 20% to $190 by Monday night. 2 teams had been eliminated Saturday, their fans went home, and a Monday game is simply harder to fill than a Saturday. The result, for bookings made on the game day itself, Final Four prices ended up nearly 50% higher than those of the championship. So here's the takeaway. March Madness drove real pricing power in 2026, and the lead time data shows that the most dramatic pricing moves happened in the final days once the matchups were locked in. If you're a host city for next year, take note. Remember, short-term rentals may pose more competition than you're typically used to given the target demographic. And don't forget those swings that we see once the matches are locked in. These are your signals heading into next year's tournament. As always, this has been a pleasure. Thanks for tuning into the Spotlight Podcast. My name is Blake Reiter, and we will be back next week with another Lighthouse Quick Take.